Hello, and thank you for joining me here on So Stitch Hex. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the ways that your personal experiences impact your craft and can change your opinion on certain topics. This seems like it would be an obvious thing, but most people don't really put the thought into it because you think, this is my experience, this is canon. But it does change depending on who you are. Whereas one person might have a great experience working with a specific deity, you might have a horrible time and the deity may not seem to vibe with you. One thing that I think about is that I am polymorphic monotheist, meaning to me there's one God that has many forms. And I just kind of treat each different deity as a different aspect of the same God. They all act in a different way, and you may not get along with all the personalities. It's kind of like God has dissociative identity disorder, and each different deity is a different version of that God. It's the same person, but that's how they are. It's like a different personality. And that's just kind of how I work with it. And so, of course, I'm not going to vibe with all of them, and that's okay. With me, I find that to be a little bit annoying sometimes, because somebody will hear your viewpoint and be like, okay, well, you believe in this God, so that means you need to believe it in this way. It's like, yes, I believe in that God, but I do not subscribe to that pantheon. It's kind of like I respect that they exist, but I don't work with them in that way, or I don't view God as a whole in that way. And therefore, I'm not going to subscribe to the same beliefs as you, and people don't get it, and it's hard to explain that to them, because it's like, I'm not saying your God is wrong, I'm saying that my God and your God may take the same name sometimes, but they're not the same. And that sounds stupid to some people, and it's really hard to talk about. Another example would be working with a specific item. I know once I was asked at a festival which stone I would use for a specific thing, and I answered the one that I use for anxiety and stuff, and I was like, well, I use these, and somebody else came up and was like, well, for anxiety or depression or for more confidence, you should definitely use this stone, and they interrupted me and they told them that the stone I said wouldn't work and that I shouldn't use it, that it picks up too many energies, and that it's not a good choice. For me, I have not found that this if I use rainbow fluorite and amazonite and ruby zoisite, I don't feel those pick up too much energy. It's just like citrine, I don't think it picks, for me, because when I'm using it, it's enveloped in my energy, and I keep my thoughts on it. It is mine, and I keep it cleansed in that way. Someone else might have a different experience because they're not keeping tabs on it, but I don't use onyx or tiger's eye very often, because for me, those bring out more of my depression, and they just don't stick as well. They don't work for me. But someone else would have a different experience and could argue against it. I know in my personal craft, it's I'll do a couple things that other people don't do, but these are the things I've always done, and they work for me. And someone else will be appalled because it doesn't follow their teachings or their practice or their linear route that they were taught. And it's that's okay for you. But for me, this works. For me, this is normal, and this is okay. And I think people forget that your personal experiences do impact your craft. I really hate when people basically, I'm going to use the word mansplain, to you, your own craft. Please explain to me what I'm doing harder. It's also frustrating when they want to not explain something to you. You go up and ask about something, just say you're just vaguely interested in a topic. Oh, I want to know about, say you want to know about one Loa. You're who's this? Who's Ursula? Or something. And instead they're oh, don't mess with them. Don't talk to them. Don't do anything. And instead of just telling you who they are and going into any details, they just might say not to touch it or look at it or think about it. It's okay, that did nothing. You taught me nothing. You solved zero problems. I have more questions now. I am annoyed. frankly. And I mean, have you ever read Pandora's Box? Do you know what happens? Like, you tell me not to touch it, I'm gonna touch it. Like, you tell me not to learn about something, now I want to know everything. Now I want to be an expert. Which for some people, I guess that could be a way to teach. Like, oh, now they have the incentive because they're doing what they're not told not to do. But on the other hand, it's really frustrating because it's like, I could ask you, like, why do you not use your athame for, like, blood or for physical items? And you could just say, oh, don't ever do that. Or you could explain to me, like, well, the athame is typically for the spiritual plane, whereas the Beltane is, like, the, is, like, used for, like, physical stuff, like blood and stuff. I don't have a great example because I haven't read a lot about it, just know from testimonies. So I know, but, like, I don't know how to articulate. That's another thing I found. Which, like, once you get someone who will explain to you something, you can just drop it. But if someone doesn't want to explain anything to you, you just want to keep going until you know what you want to know. And I find that to be super frustrating. But it can also be really hard to ask these questions and do things when you don't know the terminology. That's the biggest thing that I found in my practice now, is that I don't know the terminology. So learning the words is super hard because it's like you've always done this, but you don't know what the words are. Like, you may get some of the words right just like by chance or because they came to you or you figured it out, but you may just be doing something for ages and not know that that's what you're doing. Like the way I cleanse an object, after having heard so many people try to teach me the different ways that they do it, it finally clicked that I have been doing it kind of like some people do, but not exactly. And the way I articulate it doesn't always work. It's because terminology can really enhance your ability to, like, relate to people and understand what each other's talking about. But if you don't know and you can't find it, you can just really mess things up. And someone else might think you're doing something wrong and end up sending you off to the wrong path just because they don't understand, like, what you're talking about. And it's because you can't find the right words, or you lose the words, or you just never been given those terms. And so say you're doing something for ages and then you suddenly get the words for it. If you've been calling it a doohickey for like 3 years, it's going to stay a doohickey. It's just a hard concept to wrap around and to, like, re-educate yourself on the proper terminology to actually adequately talk about something that you do. So there's just some things that I've noticed in the craft. I don't know if you have these similar experiences. Do you have any times where you had a word that you didn't know, that you were doing that thing, but you didn't know what it was called, so you ended up having, like, a big misunderstanding? Please let me know in the comments below, and feel free to like and subscribe. Also, there is a new Patreon channel, so feel free to follow me on there, support me on there. The lowest tier is $3. It is So Stitch X, just like the channel. Right before we go, I would like to share some support to our local businesses. So my mom sells jewelry, and she sells cute little stuff like this leather, like layered bracelets, this cute little collar, which this collar is actually a double bracelet, but it fits my neck. So she sells a lot of the, like, adjustable string bands that are, like, braided, which are really cute. And some of the beaded ones and the multicolor ones. And she sells a lot of things. She has bulky jewelry, beaded, long chains, and all sorts of things like that. I would recommend for you to find her. She sells on Facebook. I will link her channel in the description below. She sells a lot of stuff, and all adult jewelry is $5. All children jewelry is, all the kids jewelry is $1, and I buy their earrings all the time. I'm not actually wearing any, but I am going to buy almost all of her spooky stuff, or see what she'll let me have of the spooky stuff, because it's so cute. It's, like, my favorite, of course. There's spiders and pumpkins and ghosts and things. And then the other thing I'd like to share is the Liberty Book Co. They have shirts. I've been trying to buy one in store, but because of the pandemic and, like, different allocation of funds and things, they haven't really had any shirts in, like, my size. So I did go and buy one online, and it shipped really fast. I know wherever they ship from, it got to my house within like 4 days with like normal shipping. And it was like, I think it was under $30 for a shirt, which isn't too bad. But yeah, so I will link their shop in the description below. And all right, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time on So Sit Checks.